Hello. My name is Rachel, and today I'm going to be going over my first draft pre-release deck profile for Lorcana. I went to a draft last week for Lorcana when Ursala's Return came out. It was a pre-release draft in my first ever Lorcana event, and it was a lot of fun. I learned so much, and it went really well. I ended up getting one round win and two losses. One I don't really like to count because the shop was closing soon, so it was a bit rushed and we kind of just ended it short. I ended up winning one of those games, so it was 1-1, and I kind of threw/lost the last game. So I'm hoping to do better at my next event. I'm actually going to another one tonight, so I'll be doing another profile on that soon. But today I'm going to be focusing on my first pre-release draft deck. So stay tuned and let's dive in. Okay, so first off, I'm going to get into the 1 ink cost cards that I drew and drafted. So I drafted 2 Olafs. I drafted 2 Follies. I drafted a Diablo, Pegasus, Magic Broom, First Aid, Casa Madrigal, Fortisphere, an item, and Golden Harp. This is a lot of 1 ink cost cards. I was trying to draw a lot of low cost cards because I feel like when I was practicing to play, a lot of the time I would not have any low cost cards, so it was hard to put cards down. So I made sure to draft a lot of 1 ink cost cards. These 2, Folly and Olaf, the kind of vanilla cards with no other abilities, they were fine. I mean, they did well as the first cards to put down, but the one that really stood out was Diablo. He allowed me to look at my opponent's hand my first turn, so that was really helpful, and I would definitely draft him again. Pegasus was another one. Pegasus was evasive and 1 ink, so I could put it down my first turn as well and be able to quest until they got evasives, so that was also helpful. Magic Broom, I usually used as ink, to be honest. First Aid usually did that too, just because I wanted to play other cards instead, and I just couldn't keep it that long in my hand. I needed to use it for ink. Casa Madrigal, I struggled to play because every time I would play it, my opponent would usually have something to clear a location. That was a big thing in this set, is clearing locations. So yeah, I didn't really have the ability to have that down for long, to be honest. Fortisphere, I inked this every time. I just wasn't really playing items that much with my deck, but I'll get into that later. And Golden Harp was kind of hard to play as well because I didn't have that many songs, or when I did, I was playing them later on, so I usually use this as ink as well, but it says at the end of your turn, if you didn't play a song, banish the character, so it was just kind of more useful for ink for me than for the song singing attributes. So those are my 1 ink cost cards. Overall, it's okay. I definitely wouldn't draw the ones that I was speaking of as I didn't use again, like the Golden Harp and the Fortisphere, Magic Broom. Those ones, probably not going to draft those again, but I learned a lot about having them in my deck. Now moving on to 2 ink cost. I took so many 2 ink cost cards. For the better or for the worse, honestly, I think it was okay. I was able to put a lot of cards down and use them as ink. All of my 2 cards were inkable. I took almost all inkable cards. I think there was only like 2 or 3 that I took that were uninkable, so that helped me out. I took two Magical Mates, 1 Ariel's Grotto. I never really used that, to be honest. Sell Them While They Seem, a song. Didn't really use that as well. I mainly used that as ink. Poor Unfortunate Souls. I usually inked that because I needed ink, which was kind of unfortunate because it's a pretty good song and it was used against me multiple times. It says return chosen character item or location with 2 costs or less to the player's hand. This happened to me over and over and it was quite annoying in one of my rounds. Pico, just pretty much bland vanilla guy, he was fine. Mirabelle Madrigal, Argiz, I could never pronounce this, it was kind of annoying, but he was clutch for attacking for sure. Magic Broom, I didn't really use that too much. Stitches, took 2 Stitches, also pretty vanilla, but you know, clutch when I needed it. And 2 Fajos, and this was really, I was not that great with these cards. I ended up drawing them when I needed attack, and they can't attack. It's 0 attack. Can't challenge, but I can ready Mulan. That was the only thing, or I could quest with them. But I didn't need them for that purpose, so they didn't end up really helping me that much. And what did help me though was my 3 ink cost. That's it for the 2 ink cost cards. My three ink costs were not that many. I only had 7 3 ink cost. I used, when I drew them, the Flotsam Jetsam strategy, which basically allows you to call them back every time that they're banished, and it would boost my Flotsam by +2 when I played both of them. This is how I won games. This is how I won the round that I won, was by using this, and my opponent wasn't prepared. So those were a success, and I would definitely draft them again. Antonio Madrigal, it's a shiny guy. Just vanilla, but I got the shiny version, which was kind of nice. Flounder, didn't really use him that much other than to quest for 2. I didn't have Ariel, so. And Great Stone Dragon, I didn't use it except for ink. All these are inkable, which is super nice except for Flotsam. And these 2, which I also really used a lot, was Sisu. I really liked using these baby Sisus. They were very helpful for both questing and being low ink. I played both of them at one time, and my opponent had a lot of cards in their hand, and it gets +1 attack for every card in my opponent's hand, so I would quest them both for 2 and get 4 lore, and my opponent couldn't take them out because they had a high attack because they had a lot of cards. So that was good. That's my 3 ink cost cards. And for 4 ink, oh wow, I had a lot of 4 ink cost cards as well. I feel like it's pretty easy to get to 4 ink, so this was pretty helpful. I took 2 transformed chefs, and so when I play them, they remove up to 2 damage from a chosen character. I wish I could have used these in a better way because a lot of the time I didn't have any damage taken to me, but I wanted to play a card and this was my only option, so I played it without even removing any damage, which kind of defeats the purpose, but they have 2 lore if you quest them, so that was the benefit I used, but definitely could have been used in a better way, but yeah. And then I took 2 Dolores Madrigal, which says when you play the card, if an opponent has an exerted character in play, then I get to draw a card. And I took 2 of these. These were also very helpful. Could have been more helpful in certain situations, similar to the Transformed Chef when I had this to play and I wanted to play it, but they didn't have anything exerted and I didn't want to wait, so I put it down. Don't know if that was a good idea or not, but in the end, it helped me win at least 1 game every round. Gunther. I didn't end up using Gunther that much because my opponent a lot of the time needed the cards that they had played back in their hand, and this would cause them to put it back in their hand, so I didn't really want to do it that much because it would just be harmful to me and not helpful. Benja, vanilla guy, but high attack, pretty good. Pete, he has bad attack and 2 lore questing. He was okay. Used him a couple of times. Panic, I didn't really use that much. I rarely drew this. I think I inked it one time, but I didn't have the card Pain, which really helps. If I did, then my villain characters couldn't be challenged. So I think I would draft this again, but I didn't really use it that much with my deck. Then I got Mulan. Decently helpful, just normal card with high defense. And I have Avalanche, the 4-cost Avalanche. Avalanche was really helpful to me because a lot of my opponents play locations, and this allowed me to do 1 damage to each character and banish their location. This was kind of shocking to them when I played it, and in that way it really helped me. And then I got the shiny Bruno Madrigal. Yeah, I only played this card once. I think it could have been better. It's just kind of a cool, interesting concept, the way it works. If I name a card and then reveal it on the top of my deck, and if it's the card I said it was, then I get to gain 3 lore. I guess this would be good if I had a card that allowed me to see the top of my deck and then I played it. That would kind of be like cheating, but it would still not be. So that would be cool, but I didn't get to use that effect. Then my 5-cost cards, I only took 2. This one is pretty terrible, Peppa Madrigal, for my deck. So I didn't even play it. I just kept this out of my deck, so technically it's not even in my deck. And then Li Shang, 5 and 5 for 5 ink and 2 lore, just pretty beefy guy. Then for my 6 costs, I don't think I ever actually did. Actually, I played Pirate's Life once, but it didn't even end up benefiting me. And Flotsam and Jetsam, I ended up inking most of the time because I needed to ink something, but it is a good card, and I just couldn't discard 2 cards to play it. Basically, it just wasn't worth it for me, but if I had a deck that allowed me to draw a bunch of cards, I definitely would play it more. I don't know if I'm going to draft it again. It'll depend on other cards I draft. And Sisu. Pretty shiny Sisu card. And it's just another beefy guy with 2 lore. But yeah, that is my first deck profile for my first Lorcana event, pre-release draft. Stay tuned for more draft profiles. I'll be doing another one from my draft event today. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon with my next deck profile. And in the meantime, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, drop a comment on what your experience was like in a Lorcana draft if you've done one before. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend. That's all for today on the TCG Fandom channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.